Om. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Panchadashi, chapter 12, verse number 71.
71, yeah.
And
71 today. Today is 71.
so we saw how the words of a wise man become a blessing for a seeker and a curse for a non-believer, or the one who does not have faith in the teacher, in the words of the teacher, who is argumentative. And it was told that even though the words of the teacher are one and the same sentence, that whatever is dear to you will make you cry. That was the statement. And it was not made with an intention to bless someone or curse someone. It was not that intention. It was a statement of fact. Just like a mirror reflects what is there in front of it. Similarly, a student is coming with faith and sincerity and dedication and wanting to understand the ununderstandable, and the other one, he wants to take the Mickey out of that the teacher. He wants to not believe, he wants to argue, he's coming with that type of attitude. And that teacher is like a mirror. It reflects back the same way. Meaning, those words, even though they are meant with no intention, but one coming with the negative, he perceives them as negative and argues. The one who is positive, the student, he perceives them as an opportunity and comes to realize the truth about the world, that it is ephemeral, it is temporary, it is finite. Therefore, all things that we become dear to in this world eventually will necessarily make us cry. So he learns the lesson and moves ahead, focuses on the divine. The other one is still busy arguing. Now it is stated that he who accepts the Sakshi as Mukhyatma, though his sadhana realizes that this Atman is immune to modifications. See, this is another very important point, that Sakshi cannot, Sakshi meaning the witness. The witness cannot be a thought in your mind. See, witnessing is a state of being. You cannot say, I am a witness. It's not possible. Because who is saying this, I am a witness? Mind. You cannot fall in you have to go beyond the mind to be witness. See? So this can be caught. This knack can be caught, or it reveals, it happens to the student who is available. But the student who is argumentative, who is not ready to open himself up to the possibility that there might be a doorway to that state of being, and that doorway is open only through the words of the teacher. It's through the words of the scriptures. They cannot take you there, but they can show you the door. Hey, this is the way you walk. This is the way you go. This is the way you think. This is the way you contemplate. But sir, there is nothing to contemplate. I am. Why am I thinking about? Yes, you keep doing that till even this question drops. That only a teacher can tell you, because we are caught up in our own mind. See? So here the verse says, 71st verse, Yastu sakshinam sevate priyamuttamam tasya preyana savatma तस्य प्रेयानसावात्मा न नश्यति कदाचन न नश्यति कदाचन. On the contrary, he who contemplates on this witnessing conscious self as the most supremely dear, he will find that this beloved self is never destroyed. What is the truth about everything that is dear in this world? It will make us cry. Why it will make us cry? Because
Dear to us.
No, not dear. Because it is temporary. It is temporary, it is finite, it is ephemeral. It is not permanent. So, whatever, this camera is giving me joy right now, but it has its death date. So if I say this is very dear to me and it is my life and everything, but it will bring me misery the day it stops working. So also our nears and dears. So whatever is finite, whatever is impermanent will make us cry. And what is impermanent? The world. And what is this witness? When you contemplate on the witnessing, when you contemplate on the I, in that process, you come to realize without thoughts that it is the permanent being, that the joy of being never ceases. The joy of being never becomes less or more. It's ever. We are not talking about the joy experienced in the mind. We are talking about the bliss of the self. And here the teacher is saying that he'll find that and why it is continuous? Because this self is permanent. This self has never been absent. This self is a continuous principle. In your life, from birth till this moment of your existence, you have never experienced its absence. No one has. And therefore it is very dear to you. Swamiji says, he who has come to the firm conclusion that the Mukhyatma is what is most dear to me. So again, Gaunatma is not given importance, Mithyatma is not given importance, but the Mukhyatma as the witnessing self is given the importance. By whom? By the mind initially, and therefore he constantly contemplates on this essential nature of the self. Sevate. Sevate is also to serve. What do you serve? Whom do you serve? If I have to serve you, I have to think about you. If I have to serve you, I have to think about you. The service will come, sacrifice will come, surrender. I can spend sleepless night for a person, provided my love for that person is to that extent, isn't it? If I got little bit love, my service will be only little bit. If my love is infinite, my service also will be infinite. My sacrifice will be also directly proportional to my love and my, to that person or that. So here it is told that such a person, through his mind, is continuously serving the Atma, the witnessing self, meaning he is continuously sacrificing every thought at the feet of the witness. What is that witness? How do we get there? By contemplating on the I. Contemplating on the I. So the more we keep contemplating on the I, That who is this I who is supporting the waker, dreamer, deep sleeper? Who is this I which is permanent? I know I am permanent. I know my mind has changed, the thoughts have changed, the emotions have changed, the breath has changed, the body has changed, the experiences have changed. But I have always remained the same. Who is this me, real me? And you keep thinking, don't come to a conclusion. The moment you come to a conclusion, you have lost the plot. Don't come to a conclusion. Otherwise, it will become a concept in the mind. Self is not a concept. So, in this way, contemplate. In this way, serve the self. Serving the self is sacrificing every experience, every contact, every emotion, every thought at the feet of the self. Tasya asau prayan atma kadachana na nashyati. This being the real Atma, supremely dear, there is no possibility of its destruction because of the other Atmas, which the Gaunatma and the Mithyatma are vulnerable to destruction. We clearly see in Gaunatma, the father, the mother, the daughter, the sister, the roles are continuously changing in you. As Mithyatma, when you are identified with the body, sometimes your attention is only on the eye, sometimes only on the hand, sometimes only on the legs, sometimes only on the breath, sometimes only on the emotions, sometimes only on the decisions, ideas, concepts, etc., theories. So there also your attention is bifurcated into so many different aspects. Your body means gross, subtle and causal body put together as the body. Body doesn't mean just the gross body. See? So all these, Mithyatma and Gaunatma, they are continuously, the roles are continuously changing. But the witnessing self's role is ever the same. If it was not the same, you cannot remember that yesterday you were a waker, a dreamer and a deep sleeper. Yesterday you went through the three states. If you were not the witness, you would not be able to know the three states came and went. So find out who was that real me, who was that real I, who knew, who knows all these three at any given time. A new theme is taken up on the pure happiness that is derived from the Supreme Self, for which there is Atipriti, supreme love. We think that for our relatives, for the objects, we have Atipriti, obsessive love. But really speaking, the true love, the infinite love is for our own essential nature. The only problem is we are seeking it through some means. That is the problem. Experience it directly. The verse goes, Parapremaspadattvena Paramanandarupata Paramanandarupata Sukhavruddhi Priti Vruddhau Sukhavruddhi Priti Vruddhau Sarvabhaumadishu Shruta Sarvabhaumadishu Shruta. The self being dearest is of the nature of supreme bliss because it is seen everywhere, from the sovereign kings to the Hiranyagarbha. Wherever there is greater love, there is greater bliss. This is heard in the scriptures. The verse says, Parapremaspadattvena Paramananda Rupata. And here it is told that the Atma, which is dearest, is the source of maximum joy or ananda. Why is it so? As is the joy or sukham derived from an object, so also in that proportion is our love for that object. So, our love for an object, a particular being, is directly proportional to the reciprocation of love, isn't it? If I get lot of love out of you, If I experience lot of love being with you, you cannot give me, but I am experiencing. To that extent, my joy uh, from you. So, and that much will be our attachment also to that object. So similar, also a person wanting to become king because he has got desire for joy, he wants to have more and more and more power and enjoy greater joy. Therefore, the source of joy is the anchor of love. So, what is the source of joy? We have already explained in the previous verses where it was told where is the spruti or spurti of Anand? Is the joy in the object, or is it the joy or the bliss coming from the self? So there it was told that whenever an object is gained, the moment that desire is fulfilled, the mind becomes calm and the joy sprouts forth. Isn't it? And how much joy will sprout forth? Directly proportional to the intensity of desire. Directly proportional to the it's an equation. If I have little bit desire, I'll be little bit happy. If I have great desire, I will be greatly happy. Isn't it? See? Now a doubt is expressed. If Atma is of the nature of Ananda and consciousness, then since this consciousness is manifest in every thought, the bliss or Ananda should be also manifest in every thought, but this does not happen. You have thought about this doubt? This is the beauty of our scriptures. This is the greatness of our Vidyaranya Swami. Contemplate. What? If Atma is of the nature of Ananda, what is Atma? Sat Chit Ananda Swarup. It is of the nature of Ananda and consciousness, which means knowledge. So it is of the nature of knowledge and bliss. Then, since this consciousness is manifest in every thought, since this Atma is manifest in every thought, meaning no thought can exist without the Atma. Right? No wave can exist without water. If every wave is pervaded by water, and if water is the Atma of the wave, and the nature of the water is Anand, consciousness and bliss, then every wave should be of the nature of bliss.
That is in the gross level.
It's a doubt, no gross level or anything. So the student is putting forth a point that if the material that has gone into making the thought is the Atma, and Atma is of the nature of bliss and consciousness, all knowing, then the thought also should be all knowing and bliss, because the material that has gone into it is that. So if there is a crease here, and if the cloth is soft, it is silky, it is of a particular color, and that is its quality, and it has gone into the crease, then if the crease is pervaded by the cloth, then if this cloth is Satchidanand Swarup, then the crease also must be Satchidanand Swarup. Logic hai na?
But that is limited.
Let's see how it unfolds. See? So you first understand the doubt. This is where our problem comes. We understand that there is Paramatma, understand. But we don't understand, or we are thinking, some people, they start saying, oh, the world is also God. Are you experiencing it? The body is also God. In our scriptures, the Trishanku Maharaj is there. He reads the scriptures and he thinks that, I can go to the heavens with the body. So he wants to go to the heavens with the body. See? Why? If everything is pervaded by reality, this body is also pervaded by reality. Then why can't body go to heaven? Is heaven other outside reality? No. Is body outside reality? No. Then body can go to heaven. But body has got no entry into the heaven. Does the waking world have entry into the dream world? Is there? There is no entry. Waker cannot enter into the dream world. Dream world also cannot enter into the waking world. So this type of doubt is going on in the head of the student. That why can't I take the thought to be also of the nature of bliss? Why can't I take it that way? And if it is meant to be, if technically we speak that every thought is pervaded by the Atma, which is Ananda Surup, but that is not our experience. Even though logically that is the truth, that every crease is pervaded by the thread or the cloth, every wave is pervaded by the water, every ornament is pervaded by the gold, every thought, every emotion, every experience is pervaded by the Atma, which is of the nature of bliss. But are we experiencing the joy and bliss every moment? Are we? This contradiction. So logically it is possible, but experientially it is not taking place. See? Now this thought is going to be looked into in our next verse. Understood the doubt? Doubt is understood. This is taken up for discussion. Chaitanyavat sukham chasya, Chaitanyavat sukham chasya, Swabhavaschet chidatmanaha, Swabhavaschet chidatmanaha, Dhivrittishvanuvarteta, Dhivrittishvanuvarteta, Sarvaswapi chitiryatha, Sarvaswapi chitiryatha. He says, if the nature of the conscious self is bliss as well as consciousness, in that case this bliss should be found in all thoughts, just as the consciousness is reflected in all thoughts. But this is not so. Yes, what you are saying is true. If you say thought is of the nature of knowledge, I know this fellow, I know this fellow, I know her, I know so far, then bliss also, but it is not so. Why are you not discovering bliss in every thought? Are you seeing if consciousness is reflecting in every thought, bliss is also. Bliss is also. Then why are you not experiencing it? Why are we not experiencing it? Why is this student, the teacher is telling, yeah, it is true, what you have come to the conclusion, your doubt is valid. But what is the purpose of the teacher? The job of the teacher is not to give solutions, but to direct the mind so that it surrenders itself, it vanishes. That is the purpose of the teacher in a satsang. Not to enhance your ego, not to make you more logical, not to make you create new concepts, but to bring, if the student is available, to bring his mind through the words of the scriptures, through his experience, through his sadhana, whatever has, as much as is revealed to him, to bring the student's mind, the seeker's mind, his mind, to that point where it can be sucked away. So the student is saying the bliss should be found in all the thoughts, but that is not our experience. The student teacher replies, Maiva mushna prakashatma, Maiva mushna prakashatma, Deepastasya prabha gruhe, Deepastasya prabha gruhe, Vyapnoti noshnata tadvada. न व्याप्नोति नोष्णता तद्वत् चित् चितेरेवानुवर्तनम् चितेरेवानुवर्तनम्. Do not doubt in this manner, just as a lamp having both heat and light, its light alone pervades all through the house, but not the heat. In the same way, in the thoughts, the consciousness alone is manifested and not the bliss. How beautiful example is given. Huh? You understood? Just like if we have a lamp, if I put all the lights off, or even this heater, if you put your finger close to the light, you will feel hot. But are you feeling hot here? So, what is more pervasive in that light, in that bulb? The light is more pervasive, heat is not pervasive. So in Atma, which is existence, consciousness and bliss, the consciousness is more pervasive, the bliss is not, just like in the lamp. The light is evident, but the heat is not evident here. You have to go close to it to experience the heat. So if you go close to Atma, to that extent the bliss will express through you. The closer you go to the Atma, the more bliss. More closer, even more bliss. Merge into the Atma, infinite bliss. See? So, Swamiji says, do not have such a doubt. The doubt being the Atma which is Chaitanya Swarupa is evident in the thought, but the Ananda Swarupa of Atma is not seen in every thought. Lamp has two aspects, heat and light. However, only the light from the lamp pervades the room, not the heat. This does not mean that there is no heat in the lamp. Similarly, it does not mean that the Atma does not have the bliss. It has the bliss. Even though you are not experiencing it, you are only experiencing the consciousness, but the bliss is also there. In the same way, the Chit or consciousness is seen to be associated with every thought, but not Ananda. The fallacy inherent in the doubt is that it is the limitation of the medium, that is the thought, through which the Atma is reflecting, that determines whether the bliss is expressed in that thought or not. It does not mean that there is no bliss in the Atma. So what does that mean? If I have got a light here and I have got a clear cloth in front of it, a muslin cloth, I'll get more light. If I have got a blue colored cloth, I'll get a blue colored light. If I got red colored cloth, I'll get red colored light. If I have got a dark cloth, there will be no light, right? But does that mean that light is not there? And heat is not there? It is there. Exactly the same way. What is the quality of your thought? Is it sattvic, rajasic, tamasic? Based on that, the bliss of the self will express. To make this point further clear, another example is given. Gandha rupa rasa sparsheshu rasa sparsheshu api satsu yatha pruthak ekakshenaik evartho gruhyate netarastatha gruhyate netarasthatha. Just as the same object has many qualities such as smell, form, taste, touch, etc., by means of one sense organ only, one quality is known and not the other qualities. How beautiful! Hmm? You see the small children, first the quality, how, what is the quality? They hold it, then they'll try to hear it, then they'll taste it, or probably they'll see it, hear it, then taste it, smell also, that goes on side by side. Huh? But for each, different faculty is required, isn't it? In any object like a flower, smell, form, taste, and touch are all associated with it simultaneously. Yet, because each of our senses is able to perceive only one quality, one can see only the color with the eyes or smell the fragrance with the nose, etc. One sense organ cannot perceive one sense organ cannot perceive the other qualities associated with the same object. This is because of the limitation of each sense organ and not because the flower lacks any of the qualities. So when you see, what happens when you see? The mind goes out of the eyes, takes the form of the flower. The moment it takes form of the flower, the thought of the flower that it is this shape appears in the mind. There must be a shape. If there is no shape, you cannot see anything. Then, the moment that happens, whatever, maybe the fragrance comes. The moment fragrance, the mind goes out of the nose, grabs the fragrance in its womb, and the thought appears in the mind. Ah, this must be rose. Ah, this must be, jasmine, or etc., etc. But the form of the flower was one thought. The fragrance of the flower is one thought. The eyes which saw the form cannot experience the fragrance. These senses, 5 senses, 6 senses, they are limited. And because eyes cannot see, smell or hear, does that mean the flower does not have the fragrance? If a person's nostrils are not functioning, the fragrant, the buds are gone. Sometimes when you have a concussion or something, you lose, or some people lose the taste. Something clicks, I don't know what. But does that mean that the food is not spicy or tasteless? For everyone else it's tasty, but this fellow doesn't find any taste because his buds are gone. If a person is deaf and people are enjoying music and this fellow is saying, hey, kya ho raha hai? Please tell me what is going on. He can't hear. He knows some eyes are seeing something is going on, but he can't hear anything. See? So Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha, these are different faculties, different organs which perceive. Each one is taking in only one stimuli. One organ does not have the capacity to take all stimuli. So conclusion is, because we are not experiencing the flower completely, does that mean the flower does not have a form, or flower does not have a fragrance, or flower is not soft to touch? It is all those things. But you may not have that ability, isn't it? Exactly the same way, if you are not able to experience the bliss of Atman, does not mean that the bliss in Atman is absent. Understand? See? We have a child, your own child, and you keep thinking, oh, some parents think, oh, they're good, he's good for nothing, she's good for nothing, and they keep complaining, they keep telling, taunting, and this fellow is, why? They are only concentrating. But then, after some years, he suddenly excels in something and oh, they become proud. Oh, unnecessarily I put him down when he was young or she was young, Because you did not see the potential in that child, does that mean there was no potential in the child? Whose fault is it? Is it the child's fault or your fault? Our fault, because we have not expanded our mind, we don't have a larger vision to see the possibilities that can come out of this child, or the patience or the perseverance to allow that child to grow into his own natural capacity. See? But afterwards, he's my child. I knew always that he will do it. But what happened when he was young? In retrospect, everyone can be wise. But in the present moment, to give it the benefit of the doubt that there may be a possibility. I don't know everything in life at this moment. If we have that attitude of positivity towards the child, then we'll only bring out the best out of him. Okay, try this, okay, try that, okay, try that. Otherwise, we impose our fears on that child, isn't it? Exactly the same way we are imposing our own fears, our own shortcomings on our own self. Right? That's exactly what we are doing. Nahi yaar, ye nahi kar sakta. Oh, it is a very tiring day today. Oh, I did this, I did that, and oh my God, I need some time for myself. We keep complaining. We are not complaining to others, but in our own mind, this dialogue is going on all the time. We are sabotaging ourselves. Right or not? Why? We are not allowing the large vision to express itself. For that, sacrifice is required. For that, you have to go through the hard yaka, the pain of letting go of your normal way of living. You have to think of something higher and stay with it. Even if it brings pain, even if your experience is contrary in the present moment. But allow. See? Discoveries in world by the scientists are not made because I don't think this will. No, they persist. Even though so much data is against what conviction they have or some idea they have, but they keep persisting, they have the patience, they keep doing the experiment, and whatever is the result needs to come, it comes eventually, isn't it? Because of that persistence, because of that perseverance, because of that faith. Do we have that perseverance, persistence and faith, a dedicated contemplation towards the self? Maybe my mind does not know everything. Let me give a chance to this mind. Rather than keep falling back, no, it is not possible. No, I'm tired. Oh, no, this is not work. No, what about others? The world is not doing, why should I do this? I will look like a foolish man here. Who cares? You have to walk your own truth. Isn't it? You can't copy someone and do it. What Mahatma Gandhi did, someone said, Swamiji, have you seen, not to me, Anubanji, he said, Swamiji, have you seen God? He says, why should I tell you? He says, no. Oh, that Narendra, who became Swami Vivekananda, when he was young, he asked Ramakrishna Paramahansa. And he told him, yes, I have seen God. So, have you seen God? He said, I am not Ramakrishna Paramahansa. You may be Vivekananda. Go and put your head under water and find out. Why should I tell you? You think someone's experience like that of Vivekananda with Ramakrishna, you can duplicate it and try and come to that conclusion, is it? So you are experimenting that experiment. It has to be your journey. You can't, just like Ramana Maharishi went into a cave and sat there for 18 years, you can't even go and stay for one day. I told you once, when Swamiji went to our Swamiji, Swamiji, I want to go to Himalayas. Swamiji said, okay, I can organize you a cave and everything in Himalayas, but let's do an experiment. He says, what? Just outside Lonavala, there is this, that Devi is there. So there are some caves there. He said, I will organize, I know some people, they will clean up a cave for you and you stay there. They'll organize, and he came. Oh, in a big jeep and everything, and few of his people came, and our Swamiji is going to go into the cave, and he's going to live there. And the villagers said, oh, don't worry, Swamiji, we will bring you the milk. Yeah, no, I don't want too much, just milk is enough, don't bring me food and everything. Okay, he went. Who is there?
Ask for the key.
Huh?
Come. Sorry, it's still the class.
मेरे पास चाबी नहीं है, इसे ले लो. So he went up there and close slowly, and afternoon was fine, beautiful sunset, but the moment sunsets happened, the army of mosquitoes came, and he had one little bit Odomos or some spray. Beautiful view, but within 2 hours, having got bitten by mosquitoes everywhere, he came down. He said, I can't stay in the cave with so many mosquitoes. So Swamiji told him, you are not meant for a cave life. You go and stay in a room with AC or a fan. Huh? You are not cut out for that. An experiment was done. See? But we have this idea that because someone did it, I must do it. You have to find out what is your journey. The instructions are the same, the paths are the same, but how it is going to unfold in your life is unique to every person. For that, you have to become available to yourself. And what is that becoming available to yourself? You have to contemplate on the self. Then that path will open up. You will know from inside. It will reveal that this is what I must do. It will automatically pull you. It will take you in that direction. There's no question of should I or should I not. It just happens. Like when you are hungry or thirsty, you automatically, whatever you may be doing, you will go towards the tap and drink some water to quench the thirst. Are we thirsty enough? Are we thirsty enough for the self? That is the question. In the same way, Atma has the nature of both consciousness and Ananda. It has both Chit Swarupa and Ananda Swarupa. That is its nature. Swarupa is your nature. But with reference to the thought, only one aspect, the Chetanata or consciousness, manifests and not the bliss aspect. See? So with respect to a thought does not have the capacity to express the bliss. Because we have already established, where does the bliss come from? What is the source of bliss? Is it a thought? Or is it an object? Or is it the self? It's the self. So when we look at objects, when we look at people, and we came to know that the source is the self. Now, body is also an object. The thinking of the thought, why it is an object? Because it was not there before, it is there for some time, and afterwards it is not there. So that which is only temporarily existing is an object. So thought is also an object. And therefore this thought does not have the capacity to express the bliss. It can express consciousness, but it cannot express the bliss. Just like the thought of vision can express forms, but it cannot express sound. It cannot express the taste. It cannot express the feeling. It cannot express the fragrance. The thought of vision. And so also with other sense. Yeah.
Swamiji, this is so funny. So the realized people, they won't have thoughts?
No, they will. They will have thoughts. But they don't succumb to them. They're not slave of them. They see them as an expression of the divine.
The quality of thought. The quality of thought.
We are understanding it. We are understanding it. But they have experienced it. Because in their definition of Atma, Atma means Paramatma. It is not just Atma in the inside and misery outside. No. That type of category of Mahatmas are also there. But the true Mahatma, once he has come to know the self, it is like he knows everything to be an expression of the self. To some people it happens like that, for some people it happens gradually. That gradual process, that stage, click, it takes place once. Once only it has to click. Just like once you get married, it clicks that I am the wife. But to play the role of wife or husband, it takes some time to unfold, isn't it? Right? One child is there, and she sent me photograph from her mother. New dress, new shoes, new socks, new bag, everything. Why? First day to school. So excited. Monday was the school, Saturday I was there at her house for Bhiksha and she showed me everything. I said, you send me photographs on Monday morning when you go. And she said, Swamiji, I'm going. And I said, congratulations, have a great day. She went. Next day, all excitement gone. Why? She used to get up at 6 o'clock every morning. So now, she was so excited about going to school. What happened? Now, that student in her, it will take so many years to unfold, isn't it? Motherhood takes some time. You can become a mother, but to express all the facets of motherhood, they take time to unfold, isn't it? You can become a prime minister, but to be an able prime minister, it takes some time. Exactly. Or you go to gym also. First day you go in all excitement, but but after that it takes some time to get into the habit and feel the energy and the joy of doing the exercise. Exactly the same way. Now Swamiji is coming. The topic that we are going to take with Swamiji is Yoga Vashishta.
Yoga Vadisa.
I did it.
Ah, you did.
But Swamiji is Swamiji, So it will be 6 days of absolute bliss. Probably it will be gone for 2-3 years.
Yeah, I like it. Can't finish.
It won't finish in one 6-day talk. So many stories are there, so many incidents are there, so many sadhanas are given in there. Beautiful. A dialogue between sage Vashishta and Sri Ram. See? So it takes time. So in Sage Vashishta, the 7 steps of realization are given. That's the famous thing there. Same thing in Kundalini, the 7 chakras. See? So, but click happens once. Once you click that I am not the waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, after that you keep living in that, immersed in that state, not compromising with that because it has clicked to you. But unfoldment takes its own journey. Unfoldment takes its own journey. So here, But with reference to the thought, only one aspect, the Chetanata or consciousness, manifests and not the bliss aspect. It is because of the limitation of the reflecting medium called the mind or the thought, which does not allow the manifestation of Ananda, and not because Ananda aspect is absent in Atma. So, what is the quality of thought? Is it gross? Is it subtle? Is it sattvic? Is it rajasic? Is it tamasic? What type of thought is it?
It's a gross.
Whatever it is, depending upon, just like I gave you the example, depending upon the cloth covering over the light, that type of light you will get. Similarly, depending upon the nature of the thought in your mind, the expression of the bliss or the non-expression of the bliss will take place. Now a doubt is raised about the above example. The student is also thinking. Chidanandau naiva bhinnau. Chidanandau naiva bhinnau. Gandhadyastu vilakshanaha. Gandhadyastu vilakshanaha. Iti chetadabhedopi. Iti chetadabhedopi. Sakshinyatra Sakshinyanyatra vavada. Sakshinyanyatra vavada. Consciousness and bliss are indeed not different things. However, smell, taste, etc. are different from each other. See, did you come up with this thought? Atma is one, right? We use the word Sat, Chit, Ananda. We are using these three words, but actually it's one thing which has all these three, isn't it? But he says, but seeing is different, hearing is different, tasting is different, smelling is different. These are 5 different organs. But Atma is not 5 different. They are Sat, Chit, Ananda are not 3 different. They are one only. So, if this is the objection, the teacher says, the reply is, please say whether the absence of difference between the consciousness and bliss is in the witnessing conscious self or in the thoughts. This is a very, very subtle point. The teacher is challenging the student with a counter thought. And the counter thought is, please tell me whether the absence of differences between consciousness and bliss. So, what did the student say? This is very, very, if you catch it, it will click. What was the doubt of the student? Tell me. If someone can say it in words.
Why
The sense of
Ananda
organs.
is expressing the thought?
Huh?
Why Ananda is not expressing the thought?
No, that was before. He is saying that consciousness and bliss are not 2 different things. They are the one same thing, that is Atma.
Yeah.
Whereas seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting are 5 different organs. He says, then bliss should express. We should be able to know the bliss. So the teacher says, tell me, where is the difference? Is the difference in the consciousness, or is the difference of, you are experiencing the difference of consciousness and bliss in the witnessing self or in the thoughts? Where are you experiencing it? Right now, where are you experiencing?
The thought.
Thoughts. Exactly. You are experiencing it in the thoughts. So drop the thoughts, you will come to the source. You say that Chit and Ananda are not different from each other, they are one. But in the example of the flower, all the qualities of smell, form, color, etc. are separate from each other. The teacher replies, if this is your doubt, although Chaitanya and Ananda are indeed one, please tell whether this non-separation is in the Sakshi or in the medium through which they are manifesting. is the difference between consciousness and bliss in the witness, or is it in the medium through which they are experiencing, that is the thoughts? Because the Sakshi, the Atma, is of the nature of Chidananda, that is simultaneous presence, and differentiation is not possible. See? Unity and diversity simultaneously is not possible. Individual, as long as he has a mind, he believes that there is a unifying principle. He believes there is a unifying principle which is permeating the entire world. But when he merges or rediscovers that unifying principle to be him, as essentially, then that all variety vanishes. All that variety vanishes. This Jnaneshwar Maharaj in Amrita Anubhava has given this example, that your eyes are seeing all the variety, but the moment these, all the forms, but the moment these eyes start making an attempt to look at themselves, all the forms will melt away. All the forms will melt away. When the ears are hearing to so many sounds, but when the ear starts making an attempt to hear itself, all the sounds will die their own death. When the nose smells so many different fragrances, when the nose comes to the source, where, what is that which is giving me all this ability to smell? It comes back to the source. All the fragrances merge into one to make the divine fragrance, the Vibhuti. All the sounds, they merge into their source. Then that fellow, if he's doing that practice, he'll hear only Om. See, this is coming back to the source. But our thing is to keep focusing on this, that. Even when we are alone by ourselves, inside our head we are got so many windows open. We close one, 10 more open up. See? So where is the separation or non-separation? Is the separation of consciousness and bliss in the Sakshi or in the medium? Thoughts. Therefore the teacher continues to clarify the point. Adye gandhyadayoPyevam abhinna pushpavartinaha akshabhedena tad bhede vritti bhedatayor bhida. Smell, etc., existing in the flowers are also undifferentiated, just like the consciousness and bliss in the witness. Where was the student's attention? The student's attention was on the expression. He said the fragrance, the form, the feeling of the flower are different. His attention was on the senses. But is it not one flower with all those qualities? It is one flower with soft touch, beautiful fragrance, beautiful form, etc., etc. Similarly, it's one Atma with existence, with consciousness, with bliss. And how do you know the fragrance and the color and the form and the fragrance? Through thoughts. How do you know Paramatma or the Atma as Sat Chit Anand? Because of three thoughts called Sat Chit Anand. These three are thoughts. Therefore, you are calling Atma as Sat Chit Anand. Think about it. Atma doesn't need to call itself Satchidanand. Flower doesn't call itself, I am a beautiful, fragrant, a beautiful form and beautiful to touch. Flower doesn't say that. Nor does Atma say that I am Satchidanand Swarup. It is the mind which is saying that. With regards to flower also, with regards to the Atma also. Why? There, with the flower, it is objectifying and trying to experience the flower. The mind is trying to. And the same habit of wanting to experience the world, it starts applying on the Atma also. It wants to experience Atma. And in that attempt, it starts creating and coining different words. What are they? Sat Chit Anand, Ekameva Dvitiya, Prajnanam Brahma. These are important, but these are such thoughts, if taken in the correct angle, it will merge the mind into its source. It is important that the mind think about it, but when it is only thinking about the thoughts of Atma, it is not enough. Then he is searching for Atma objectively, but he must become subjective also. The mind must become subjective. That, arey yaar, Atma, I am talking about Satchidanand Swarup as if it's a piece of cake, but this Satchidananda is about me. My source is Satchidanand. Arey, if my source is Satchidanand, then I should also be Satchidanand. Then why am I not experiencing it? Then that pain, then that urge, then that thirst to come closer. Why is the bliss eluding me if I am already of the nature of bliss? The mind is thinking. Then what is my source? Then he comes to the I. Oh, why am I thinking of I? Then everything stops. Or who am I, like Ramana Maharshi asked. It's not that you keep asking that question, eventually it stops. Smell, etc., existing in the flower are also undifferentiated, just like the consciousness and bliss in the witness. It is only when the mind comes into being that the consciousness and bliss separate themselves. It is when an experiencer comes to the flower that the fragrance, the touch, the softness, the form, they get separated from each other. But in the flower, they are all one, undifferentiated. It is due to the differences in the sense organs that they get differentiated. It is true that on account of the differences in the thoughts, such as Rajasic, Tamasic, etc., the consciousness and bliss are differentiated not in the witness. So the teacher comes to the conclusion that the consciousness and bliss is differentiated due to the quality of the thought and not because of the consciousness or the Paramatma or the Atma within, the self within. In you the wife is there. In you the student is there. In you the employee is there. In you the sister is there. In you the aunt is there. Are they all the time expressing? They are all. You are all put together. There is no differentiation right now. But the moment husband comes in front of you, suddenly the wife pops out of you. Then next to her, your nephew or niece comes, immediately the aunt pops out. Then there is a competition between the wife you and the aunt you. Then suddenly the mother comes and the daughter pops out. And then we get lost in the Gaunatma and the life becomes too much for us. If we come to that I am the source, Atma is the source of everything, all these are just roles that are being played. They happen of their own accord. You cannot stop wife from expressing if the husband comes in front of you. You cannot stop the son from expressing if the mother comes in front. It's automatic. You've been trained. You've trained your mind that way. So rather than giving value and attention to all these, give value and attention to the Atma within, which is the source of all possibilities, all options. And therefore, these qualities of smell, form, taste, etc. are present in the flower simultaneously and are not separate from each other. Nevertheless, they appear to be separate because of the differences in the perception of the respective sense organs. Correct? In the same way, because of the thought differences, the Chit and Ananda seem to have been separated. What are the thought differences? Chit is one thought in our mind, Ananda is one thought in our mind, isn't it? I am of the nature of Atma. So, it's still an objective knowledge. Why? Because I is one thought, am is one thought, of is one thought, nature is one thought, Atma is one thought. Thought interacting with thought can never come to a conclusion. You have to come to the source. You have to come to the source. I am of the nature of Atma, then suss it out. Which I am I talking about? The Gaunatma I, the Mithyatma I, or the Mukhyatma I? In the same way, because of the thought differences, the Chit and Ananda seem to have been separated, although they are really Abheda, essentially one of the nature of Atma. Just like all those creases on the cloth appear to be separate from each other, but actually they are one cloth. All the waves appear to be separate from each other, but actually they are the same water. The ornaments seem to be different from each other, but actually they are the one gold. Exactly the same way. A realized master, a wise man, he accepts all the Vedas, all the thoughts, but his attention is on, he knows that all these thoughts are essentially the Atman. That he is the source. His attention is not on the thoughts, his attention is on the source. By thinking thoughts, transformation will not come about. But if thinking is used as a launching pad to glide into the self as the self. For example, a good example that a lot of Mahatmas give is the pole vault. You take the pole vault, what is your destination? Where are you going to reach? Back on the ground. Back on the ground. But back on the ground is your destination. You can't remain hanging in the air. So, what do? You take a pole, you start running, you dig it in the ground, you allow the pole to pull you up, you make sure that you have gone across the bar, you keep holding on to the pole. When you see your whole body has come across on the other side, then you let go of the pole. And then there is free fall. And you have reached your destination, isn't it? If you fall on the same side, disqualified. If you fall on the same side, disqualified. when you think through thoughts and remain at the thought level, you are taking the pole vault. Pole vault is the thought, an idea. You are going up to the heights and thinking about the self, but you are falling back on the same side. You have to go on to the other side. You have to go on to the other side. For that surrender, for that faith, that is required. Clarity is required. Where am I wanting to go? Faith in what? That you are utilizing the thoughts, no doubt about it. But their direction must be subjective. Every thought must bring you to the subject that you are. If that is not happening, you are falling on the same side from where you took the jump. Disqualified. But man can only keep trying. Only once you need to go across, that's all. But you have to keep at it, keep at it. It's like any exercise. You go to the gym first day, you are not able to lift it. You try. Suddenly one day then you increase the weight. Little bit more. Same way here. You keep trying. Only once you need to get across. And if that happens with the last breath in this life, it is life worth lived. Isn't it? Think. The question follows, in the case of flower, although the different qualities are perceived through different senses, the knowledge of the flower is of one composite whole. On the other hand, in the case of Atma, the Chit and Ananda appear to have been separated because of the medium of thought, but that just like all the qualities are appearing in one flower, and you have experienced the flower. Oh, but Sat and Chit and Ananda are qualities of that Atma, but we have not experienced the Atma. That is our problem. And therefore all these questions come up. Oh, I am Gaunatma, I am the father, I am the daughter, I am the sister, I am the brother. Oh yeah, and who? Oh, they are all in me. Yes, I can understand this. Oh, you are the one who's expressing through body, breath, mind, intellect. We can little bit suss it out. Yeah, I think I can understand. Come to the self. Oh, everything is that Atma only. No, it's too much. It's too much. I need to think. I need to think through it. By thinking through it, you will remain in the whirlpool of the thought alone, which is the mind. Thinking, if it is not subjective, it will not bring the conclusion. If it is objective in nature, thought thinking another thought begetting another thought, experiencing begetting another experience, one leading to the next. Now what? Now where do I go? Now what do I do? Oh, is this it or is this not it? But they said this. You're getting just trapped into your own web of thoughts. And that web is created only because we are not subjective. It was a big leap for me a long time ago. I remember in this place only, the old house, I was in my room. I used to do a lot of meditation and yoga and all that, and I was sitting and writing down my thoughts, and I was trying to work out what is this subjective and objective. I couldn't to the life of me understand the difference between subjective and objective, and I was trying to work out what is this subject they are talking about. I am the person. What do you mean by that? I am someone other than me. How is it possible? And I know if I keep thinking, I'll get caught up in it. So I was writing. So much I wrote. And my sister came. And whole night passed, we were discussing. Whole night. Next morning we went to work like that. And it didn't happen one day. So many times it happened. But we're trying to work it out. 2-3 months passed, but the subject, bloody hell, the subject did not reveal itself. And one day, after all this intense tapas, thinking tapas, not getting disturbed by it, but at the same time getting disturbed, why it is not clicking? I know it must click. Where am I going wrong in my contemplation? Where am I going wrong in my logic? Where am I going wrong? Am I not believing enough that there is a subject? If Mahatmas are saying there is a subject, then there must be one. But what was my mistake? I was thinking about the subject and wanting the experience of the subject like I am experiencing you. It will not happen. And one day, many months later, sitting deep in meditation, just the penny dropped. Just the penny dropped. Oh, and the moment it dropped, the gratitude, the tears, the horripulations, the joy. मेरे तो गिरिधर गोपाल दूसरा ना कोई. That you can't explain that. From that day onwards, there is no doubt about the subject. From that day onwards, there is no doubt about the subject. But for that, you have to go through the whatever is required that you have to go through. You have to keep banging at it with faith, knowing fully, clearly that thinking is required, but thinking cannot take you there. And yet you are already that. Everything stops at that moment. Then it reveals. It can reveal any time. It does not matter. It can reveal when you are walking on the road also. It happens only by grace. What is the time? 2 minutes. On the other hand, in the case of Atma, the Chit and Ananda appear to have been separated because of the medium of thought, and therefore we keep thinking about ourselves by way of thought. Therefore, I keep telling this. If it clicks one day. 2 approaches. I think, therefore I am, or I am, therefore thinking happens. So which position do you take? I think, therefore I am, you will remain in the mind always. But if you take the position, I am, and therefore thinking happens, means you are the witness. And you don't need thoughts to be. Being does not require appearance or disappearance of thoughts. Presence and absence of thoughts is not required. It may happen, but this being does not get disturbed by it. But for the thoughts to appear or disappear, the being is necessary. They are dependent on the being. They are dependent on the Atma. Isn't it? Do they have an independent existence, the thoughts? Now, this information you apply on yourself. Don't take it only theoretically.
But you say the thought to disappear, the being is necessary. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for thought to appear or disappear, to appear in your mind or disappear from your mind, the being, that is the Atma, is necessary. A dead man cannot have thoughts. Dead man cannot have thoughts. So, this is not to prove it to someone. You have to come to the final clarity within yourself. That are you addicted to thinking about yourself? Then you will remain in the mind. So it means your search for the self, for the Paramatma, for the divine is objective in nature, because thought is objective. But if the thoughts are being utilized, used as that pole vault to raise you to a height so that you can make that final surrender to that jump, get sucked into the self, like you get sucked into the sleep, then it is subjective in nature. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Just sit quietly for 2 minutes.